So it is Vampire Week over in Killer Flicks on Facebook, the Facebook group I'm always talking about. Definitely come over and join if you haven't yet. So I wanted to obviously, like I usually do, go through a bunch of lesser known vampire movies I just don't think get talked about enough. Now, I will say just straight out, I am not a big fan of vampires. It is my least favorite subgenre in horror. I don't know what it is. It's just never been something that's super appealing to me. Now, there are great vampire movies, absolutely. And I think that everyone knows about stuff like Let the Right One In, or, Bram Stoker's Dracula, From Dusk Till Dawn, or, some of the other ones that I really, really love. And there's other ones as well. But I'm going to talk about some that I just feel like get almost never, ever, ever talked about. One I actually don't own because I've always been waiting for a box set, and I have to bring this up. It is the Hammer horror Dracula movies with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. I have a big love for all 7 of them. But if I had to pick one, and I know a lot of people go with Horror of Dracula, but my favorite one is Brides of Dracula in that series. So Brides of Dracula is my favorite Hammer horror Dracula film. So if you guys haven't checked out the Hammer horror movies yet, the Frankensteins, there's 8 of those, and there's a bunch of mummies, and there's the Quatermasses, and there's the Hammers is like a whole subgenre to itself. But of the Draculas, yeah, Brides. I just really dig that film. Now, another one that I've talked about in the past, and I actually did a review of on here, which I just don't feel like anyone's talking about all that much, despite it being a super good vampire movie in vein of something like Let the Right One In, is The Transfiguration, which takes place in the ghetto. And it's actually very reminiscent also of another film that I'm going to be talking about here, and I will tell you what that is at the end, because I think I'm going to save that one for last, because I think it might be the best vampire movie no one ever talks about. But talking about the ones I do own, now this one is kind of debatable on if it's an actual vampire movie. I say that I'm on the fence of it myself, but you will not find a more zany and funny and ridiculous movie than Mr. Vampire. This is just goofy as fucking all hell. Now, some could argue that the vampires are zombies, and I can totally get that, and I almost agree. But it is called Mr. Vampire, and they do refer to them as vampires and anything that I see on the written parts side of this, so I don't know. But I have to bring it up because Mr. Vampire, man, this is about hopping zombies or vampires, whichever one you want. And they're like kung fu fighting, hopping vampires. Like literally, they just hop forward. That's what they do. That's how they move around. They just hop. It's really funny. It's really goofy. There's some fucking fantastic martial arts in this movie. Good stuff. Next up, this I have it on a 6-pack. It's the only way I own it. But this stars Bruce Campbell and David Carradine, and it is great. And that is the Sundown Vampire in Retreat. Right there. This is a great pack because you get Blood Diner, fan-frickin-tastic movie. There's not a bad movie on here. I like all these. But of the two, or of these 6, Blood Diner and this are the absolute must-haves. But I have Blood Diner on a Blu-ray now, thanks to Vestron. But Sundown is great. Really funny horror comedy. Totally different spin on the vampire genre, which I think that's what it really comes down to, honestly. If you really pay attention to the majority of my vampire picks, the vampire picks I have are because they aren't really vampire movies all that much. Like, they feel so different from a vampire movie, it's almost not one. And of course, there are some that do feel very much like a vampire movie, and I like some. There's just, I don't know, it's just not a genre I gravitate towards. I like the Blade movies, and I like I'm not saying that I hate them outright. It's just, it's not something that I get super excited about, but let's not focus on that. What to say next? Oh, geez. Okay, let's go over to Korea, where I honestly think they may make the most, you know, they make the best films in like, as far as what I've been able to see. Like, I've never seen a bad Korean movie in my life. So they're the most consistent. That's the word I was trying to think of. They make the most consistent films for me. I've never seen a bad one. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I've just never seen one. And this is directed by Park Chan-wook. And that guy can do no wrong. If you love this movie, Thirst, check out every fucking movie this guy's ever done, because he is a master of cinema. He directed Old Boy, which I'm sure you've heard of and it's probably seen, obviously. But if you haven't seen Thirst, this is arguably my favorite vampire movie. It is just so wild and different and awesome. Absolutely check this out, and check out every other thing he did. Like JSA, the Revenge trilogy. I mean, the dudes just can't freaking do anything wrong. Next up, we have a Stephen King movie that no one ever talks about, and I will be reviewing this very soon. One of my very favorite Stephen King films ever made. Stephen King's The Night Flyer with Miguel Ferrer. I never know how to say the guy's name, but Jesus Christ, dude. Unfortunately, this is out of print and goes for a pretty penny now. I have the VHS as well. But, Jesus, this movie's awesome. Miguel Ferrer, whatever. He writes for, like, a Weekly World News column, and he is trying to go in search of this night flyer who's killing people at all these little small airports. And he, is trying to figure out what this story is. And there's another journalist who's, like, trying to steal his scoop following behind him. It's just fantastic, and you'll never see a vampire like it. It's bloody and gory, and Miguel is fantastic as always. And last but not least, the one that I feel like every single damn person should be talking about, the George A. Romero, Tom Savini vampire movie, Martin. Seriously, if you haven't seen Martin, get your ass on it. This is the movie that reminds me of The Transfiguration. If you were to take Martin and combined it with Let the Right One In or Let Me In, whichever version you prefer, you would have Transfiguration. Martin, this is kind of spoilery, so I don't know, but Martin is a kid who thinks he is a vampire and is not. And he goes out and he sucks girls' blood. He uses a razor blade to cut them open. He drinks their blood. And his uncle, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I think it's like his uncle he moves in with, who also thinks he's a vampire and is like, trying to get it out of him. He's like they're having like this war between each other. It's awesome, man. You gotta watch it. It's been too long since I've seen it, so I'm actually kind of getting fuzzy on the details of it, but the few times I have seen it, I just think it's freaking fantastic. Anyway, this is ran pretty long. I was going to point out another one, but the fact that it's a vampire is a reveal in the movie, and that would be a big spoiler, so I can't say it. But yeah. How many of these have you seen, along with the other two that I mentioned? And what are some of yours, for sure? And am I crazy? Is vampires the best genre ever for you? I mean, if it is, that's awesome. It's just, as I said, it just doesn't do a ton for me. Anyway, guys, all right.